your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website, dkpco.com.au, or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
Are you a professional optimised business? Time to look at Northern Peugeot Bandura to further professionalise your fleet with their updated commercial van range. The team at Northern Peugeot Bandura can help customise your fleet to your business needs. Stock arriving now, so secure your van and beat the rush before the end of financial year madness. Visit northernpeugeot.com.au or call 9119 9008. T&Cs apply. You're listening to the State of Our Football Nation on FNR.
Welcome to another edition of Radio Dub. I've accidentally taken George's intro because he does it so well every single week. And I'm trying to get as good as George is as introducing the State of Our Football Nation here on FNR. And George is still enjoying his time in Queensland. He doesn't want to come back to Melbourne, but he's, as always, joining us on the show and hosting it so well. And George, how is Queensland for you at the moment?
Look, humidity is very high at Pokuah. The interesting thing about it is the weather's just, the last couple of days has got a bit unseasonal. In fact, it has been for quite some time, but we've had some rain. Then we had some wind. And actually the weather is kind of like the wind has swept some of that humidity away, and it's just brilliant at the moment. And of course, but I'll be back following my secret assignment in Queensland. I'll be back, so we'll get a chance to be in the studio again. Welcome again, Pokuah Frimpong, my co-host. What a week it's been, the last 7 days. They say a week's a long time in politics. Pokuah, a week is an extraordinarily long time in football. There are so many stories, and I don't know where to start. Should it be the news that we should break regarding Western Australia? It looks like the Optus Stadium. Remember they used to say, build it and they will come? Well, Western Australian government saw an opportunity to build a stadium on the edge of their water, their edge of the Swan River, and people are coming from everywhere and all over the world. And the latest news is, I'll let you break it, go for it. That's
the arch nemesis of the Arsenal Football Club, Tottenham Hotspurs, and the West Ham Football Club are heading to Perth. I believe you said, George, that West Ham will be taking on Perth Glory. So it'll be an amazing thing, because they obviously Crystal Palace who were in there, or was Aston Villa? Aston Villa were in Perth.
Aston Villa were there with the late Stevie Gerrard as their coach.
Yeah.
Remember, he was looking to mount a serious campaign, and he didn't get too far into the season before he was tossed aside. But I'm sure the football person he is, Steve Gerrard, will be back in a new role, a bit like a guy called Roy Hodgson, who must be the most. I mean, we have met him. He's been a wonderful supporter and consultant for the City Football Group, and we had him at Melbourne City a number of years ago. He's an absolute gentleman. He's about 100 years old, and I say that in the most reverential way. He's 75 plus and living proof, at least, that there is one part of the world that doesn't believe in ageism. They believe it's like that wonderful thing you and I talk about. If you're good enough, you're old enough. And Roy Hodgson clearly is good enough to still be good enough to be doing whatever he's doing. He's back at Crystal Palace. That's the latest news out of London. So Crystal Palace has a new old coach, Roy Hodgson, who's very comfortable there. And what do you think he can do? Do you think some of the younger boys will listen to Grandpa?
Well,
in the same fashion that they didn't listen to Patrick Vieira?
I don't think it's actually, I don't think the Crystal Palace one is a case of the players not having a good relationship with Patrick Vieira, because it did seem like the players had a good relationship with him. They just went through their toughest spell of the season. So I'm actually of the opinion that I think the Crystal Palace went a bit too early actually in firing Patrick Vieira, because they've got a run now that is very winnable for them and keep them safe in the Premier League. But I think that the players will listen to Roy, because some of them have had him as a manager before. So I think Crystal Palace have got a quality squad and they should be okay.
I noticed what you just did there. You dropped one of our special guests straight onto the desk. His name is Lawrie McKinna. I've known him as a football person, wearing about 50 million shirts. Do you know the latest shirt he's wearing? And he wears it with pride. Mind you, he's the ultimate professional. When he's not the mayor of anywhere, he look at him. He's wearing the magnificent colours of my original football team in Sydney. I used to know it as Panhellenic. It's now Sydney Olympic. And Lawrie McKinna, can I just say, you look damn good in that colour. And Pokuah, you've done good just dropping him when he wasn't looking.
Yeah, no, I had to, George. I had to.
No, it's
Come on,
great. It's great to be on, and I believe I played with one of your other clubs in Melbourne, Box Hill. You were a bit of a Box Hill man. My first club when I came from Scotland in 1986, and I still keep in touch with a lot of those boys. So, it's good to be on the show tonight, and good to be talking football.
Mate, I'm always thrilled to have you on board, because you know football in all its guises. You were part of the NSL. You've been, part of the management team. You've been an ambassador. You've played every role that anyone can possibly play in the game. Where do we stand at the moment on the cusp of Football Australia on one side having one certain responsibility to do what it can for the game, and another body called, of course, the APL, the Australian Professional Leagues? They have in their mind, we've got to get the A-League up and running. We've got to make it strong. We've got to make it viable. So they're talking other clubs bringing in. They're talking about a new team from New Zealand called Auckland. They're talking about a new team out of Canberra, which you would know very well.
Yeah.
We've had Canberra in there before, and we should never have lost Canberra, but we did.
Yeah.
Now, where do you see things? Football Australia has a real role to play with the arrival of a national second division. And on the other level, you've got the APL doing something totally different. Can the two coexist?
I think the A-League, the APL, needs to reinvent itself again. You know, we had a great opportunity after the World Cup. I was fortunate enough to be there. And when I come back, and then you had the issues down in Melbourne, then you had the debacle over the grand final, which to me was a financial decision, but I think the way it was delivered and the way it got leaked out was, I think there's some issues itself in there. It could have been handled better. But when you're talking about 4 or 5 million a year coming into the game to play a grand final in Sydney, when you actually look at the balance sheets of most clubs, they would, for what I was told, and again, I'm out of the A-League just now, but it was going to be an extra 200 or 300 grand to each club in their reimbursement from the league. So we've had a hit. Looking at the crowds round about the place, you look at Adelaide, are doing well, good atmosphere. Perth had sellout crowds at the smaller stadium, but a lot of the clubs are struggling. So get that, going back to the early days, like even when I was at the Mariners, you know, we averaged 12,000, 13,000 for 2 or 3 years. We had sellout crowds and there were a buzz about the place. They're not a buzz at the moment. So the APL need to make a buzz. Canberra, I was involved in Canberra for many years because I worked for ASICS and we sponsored them. Mick Lyons was the coach, and there were some great players came down there. Auckland, I was involved at the beginning of the A-League with Matt. We went to Auckland a few times and played over there. I can see why they want both places to come in. But I saw the buzz about the place when the second division started getting talked about. One of the social media posts got over 1 million hits, you know, because I was in A-League land for a lot of years as a coach and administrator. when you actually come down now at Sydney Olympic and you talk to some of the fans, they've never been to an A-League game. And it's not as though because thousands of people's coming to Olympic games, it's not, you know, we're getting 500 or 600 to a normal game. We got 4,500 to the Sydney FC Cup game just over a year ago. But a lot of these people, they just don't go to the games anymore because their team's not in it and they don't support anybody else. And again, that's not everybody. But a lot of people's like that. I mean, you see over 1 million likes on one of these posts about the B-League. You start wondering, well, what's beneath the surface here? Can we re-engage these people to come back to the game? And that's up to individual clubs. Sydney Olympics put in its LOI and we're waiting to hear back in the next few weeks that that's been accepted to go to the next stage. But I think they can coexist. I don't think the A-League has to worry because, well, a lot of people don't realise they go on about promotion relegation. The A-League clubs have got a licence to 2034 without any relegation promotion. So take promotion relegation out of the way. The big decisions that are going to be made by FFA, in my opinion, is it going to be summer or winter? I think they're stating is going to be winter. And I know a lot of the Melbourne clubs, they want it summer. I don't think we can take on the A-League, to be honest. At the moment, I'm not sure if FFA have got a TV deal up their sleeve because we've not been told any of the facts and figures yet. We've not been told the cost. So a lot of that stuff is going to come out in the wash in the next 3 months when we go to the next stages. But I think there's an opportunity that we can work together. I think the summer season and the winter season works. The people who believe that you can get promotion relegation, how can you operate a second division team and say $1.5 to $2 million, you win promotion to the A-League and your budget minimum will be $10 million. You cannot, the money, the gap is too much at the moment. So I think the big thing for me is get the A-League back where it was and let's give the B-League a chance. Let FFA do their bit. The clubs have worked hard. They've been meeting for the last 6 years. You know, these meetings have been going on for many years now about the B-League. And now the clubs are keen. The clubs are all waiting with anticipation what FFA are going to come and say this is the format and the parameters round about what we're going to do. So I think for football, I think there could be, you look at Sydney United playing in the FFA Cup final, forget about the crowd trouble, but they got 15,000 people at the game, majority outnumbering the A-League opposition by 10 times, you know. So the support's definitely there. It's engaging them the right way and getting them behind the teams that their fathers and grandfathers used to support. And Roy Hodgson, seeing he's a grandfather coach.
What do you make of that decision? What from you know the man. I've met the man on two or three different occasions, and he's been exemplary.
I think him walking in the dressing room is, I get it, Vieira was there and whether the players liked him or didn't like him, they weren't getting results and it could have went too early. But Hodgson walking in the dressing room, he's not going to have a swagger because if he swaggers too much, he'll fall over because he's 75. But him coming in the
no, easy. Hang on. 75, Lawrie McKinna, is the new 60.
Oh, well, I hope so because I'm 61. So I hope
you're about 50. You're about 50.
I love it. So I reckon him coming in the dressing room, if I was a player and he walked in the dressing room, I would go, wow, this guy has done everything in the game at every level and he's been successful everywhere he's went. And the guy, I don't know, I've never heard a bad word or a scandal involving the guy. So I think him coming in is boys are going to go, wow, this man knows what he's talking about and he'll get the respect straight away, I would say. And then if they've got the cattle there to get some results, because it's very tight down the bottom league, I think he'll do all right.
If you've just joined us on FNR, our special guest is Lawrie McKinna. What's your official role these days in Sydney Olympic? Damon Hanlin, your chair, said to me, I'm going to have to give you access to Lawrie McKinna because there are so many stories and there are so many threads that we want to run at you? I mean, Sydney Olympic are getting serious. You guys have put your hand up. You want to be part of the National Second Division. What's your official role now?
So I got asked to come on the board last year because of the situation with Bill Pappas and that financial stuff that went on with Westpac. You wanted a wee bit of credibility. I came on. We sorted that out. That all got cleared. And then the CEO left, and Damon asked me if I would a couple of days a week do the CEO's role to help out. And I said yes. And that was like 4 or 5 days. So my wife, Christine, as you know, George, she was battering me. But then as for the 1st of January, I'm on full-time as CEO and helping Damon with his, because he's got Titan Cranes, which is one of the biggest crane companies in Australia. I'm helping him with some developments and some of his stuff as well. So it's perfect. I'm getting my football fix. And I've got the big LM on there because Roy O'Donovan's Labby's player assistant, but because Roy's on the field, I'm helping out with being an assistant coach as well to Labby, and I got sent off 2 weeks ago. First time I've been sent off as a coach, but I took my one game ban on the chin, and I'm back this week.
Lawrie McKinna, Pokuah Frimpong is my co-host on State of Our Football Nation on FNR. She's a terrific young woman who loves the game. She's also one of the commentary team on Paramount Plus doing the Liberty Women's League. Just give her a reminder, how many times were you sent off in your playing career? Can you remember?
I think only once in Australia.
Okay.
Only once, and I stomped in somebody's head because his head was there and they deserved me to stomp on him. And once in Scotland, I went to follow through. I was playing, it was Kilmarnock versus Clyde, and one of their tough guys was kicking everybody, so I taken it upon myself to do them. And as I was just going to connect, I then changed my mind and only half got him. So I went in the dressing room and the coach came in at half time. He just abused me because I pulled out. I should have hit him harder. So, but that was going back in the early 80s. And actually a goal came on Facebook yesterday. Lawrie McKinna notches a header in the dying minutes of the Morton versus Kilmarnock game, 1984, last game of the season. The mullet was flowing. And I buried the header for about 6 inches. I wasn't bad in the air in my day, but this header was for about 6 inches. So I powered it home.
Speaking of powering things home, in your new role now as a CEO and also the assistant coach, the assistant ambassador, the whole box and dice.
Yeah.
What are for those of us who haven't had a chance to see the new NPL season in New South Wales, we haven't had a chance to see Sydney Olympic, since the last, I think it last played in the Australia Cup, did it not? And it had a bit of a run, which was lovely. Yeah. Have you got some serious new young talent that you are excited about?
Yeah, we signed Jack Simmons, who I think was playing down at Dandenong. He was former Newcastle Jets, so me and Labby had him at the Jets youth set up. So we signed him, and he's just a gifted player. I think he had a good season at NPL down in Melbourne. Darcy Burgess, which is one of the Burgess family who plays with Sydney FC, a lot of skill. He just needs to learn not to touch the ball as much because he's one of these boys because he can and at that NPL level. But as a coach, you have to get it and release the ball now and again. I was going to say Roy O'Donovan there, but I forgot he's older than Roy Hodgson. But he's still playing. We've got some young defence, Jacob Kressner, who came in for the Mariners. He was a scholarship at the Mariners, picked up osteitis pubis, so they let him go and we've signed him up. And he's just broke into team in the last couple of weeks. I think he's a great potential to come through. And we've got a few ex-A-League players like Fitzgerald. We just signed Ziggy Gordon. Ziggy Gordon come back for overseas, so Ziggy's going to be, and he's working full-time in the club as well. So we've put together a good squad, but we're starting to build. We're looking to build the squad and the staff levels of the club up to B-League standard, so because I know there's still a lot of NPL clubs that will have one part-time person in the office, and to get serious, You know, we've employed some more staff. Ziggy's sponsorship manager as well as a player, and doing a fantastic job. You know, he's not shy on the phone, and he's done a very good job. So I think some of the teams will definitely. It was great to see over 30 submissions. Obviously, I think once, if they don't all get through, once FFA put out what it's going to be like and what it's looking like financially, I think a few other teams will just drop off by the wayside. But to get that 14 or 16 teams, I think is key. I think if you're going to get 8 or 10 teams like the old A-League was, we're going to struggle because the season. We're going to start playing 3 times, that kind of stuff.
Can I throw something at you? And also, I'm reminded because Pokuah tells me that they're doing the commentary and they're doing the coverage in a very different manner than they were when you're in your heyday in the NSL, Lawrie. And you are also very aware of the emergence of brand new technology. Even what we're doing here today, 10, 15, 20 years ago, would have been laughable. You would have gone, Danikian, just take a chill pill, sit down very quietly and don't worry about Spurs coming to Perth to play West Ham. You've got enough problems on your hand. But you see, the technology is allowing us to do something we never imagined. Now, will this be another difference maker for all the second division teams, all those who want to be part of this new, A-League 2, for example?
Yeah.
I believe it will be.
I believe
sponsors will love it. Sponsors will love it.
Now when we putting out our sponsorship stuff now, like Sydney Olympic have about 28,000 followers on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. We don't do a lot on Twitter, but the other two bits, about 28,000, which is about the biggest in the NPL up here. But then when you actually chuck into potential sponsors, 119,000 people watched the NPL over the weekend. You know, that's big. You're starting to get those big numbers because when I was at Newcastle a couple of years ago, the figures we were getting when I went to Paramount or when it was still in Fox was shocking. You know, the numbers dropped. Sponsors want to see those numbers. And whether it's somebody watching it on the phone, I go down swimming most mornings in Terrigal when I can. And you've got I've got a wee Tottenham fan, and a Monday morning he's sitting on his phone before he goes in a swim, usually complaining because Arsenal's got a win. Let's not go there. Man, I can't go on my phone because I need my glasses to actually see it, because you're actually looking quite good today. Because I've not got my glasses on there. You're looking very sharp.
Have I told you iPhone are making a very special new phone? Their iPhone 15 will be ultra sharp and widescreen, just for you, Lawrie McKinna.
Well, I've always had, when I used to play with Heidelberg, the Greeks used to say, McKinna, a good player, but too big in the legs. Because I think I was polite for saying it, a big arse. I think Damon, I think the chairman's just, arrived, has he?
No,
I think he's just arrived there.
Introduce him, but...
Well, Pokuah, you can do the honours.
Well, we're lucky enough to be joined by Damon Hanlin for the Sydney Olympic chair. Damon, thank you for joining us. You've been listening to all that. What are your thoughts, Damon? Hello, Damon. Oh, I don't think we can hear you. I don't know if you're...
We need to fire him up.
Yeah.
Is he anywhere near Lawrie McKinna? Because Lawrie loves hogging. Lawrie loves hogging.
I'm at New South Wales. I'm at Valentine Park up at
very nice.
New South Wales head office. We train up here. We because of the rain problems we had last year and getting ground availability, we decided we'd book Valentine Park Field all year, and it's fantastic facilities.
Can I ask a trick question? While we're getting Damon on,
I think Damon's mic might actually be working now.
Is Wentworth Park still part of Sydney Olympic, or have we lost access to it?
That was lost many years ago.
Was it really? Oh,
Damon probably went as a boy because he used to watch Panhellenic in 1957.
He's not old enough. Surely not.
He's not old enough. That was me just having that. I just had to get the first shot in there because he's probably going to hammer me.
Damon Hanlin, are you anywhere near us? Have we got a camera on you yet?
I can see myself, George. I'm hoping.
I can see him too.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. Second attempt. Good afternoon, FNR Radio.
What do they say? Better late than never. Lawrie McKinna has given us a fantastic intro to Sydney Olympic and the challenges that lie ahead, and the fact that you guys have been super enthusiastic. But Damon, fantastic to have you on board. Great to hear what you guys are doing behind the scenes. And more than anything else, it's now looking like a serious attempt that there'll be 30-odd clubs really making a go of getting the A-League 2 or the National Second Division up and running. And Lawrie and I were just talking about the advent and the huge developments in media, and how we're not only broadcasting the game differently, we're delivering it differently. And you as a sponsor surely must be so keen to know that there are many ways now to watch the football. You don't have to just go to the ground.
Yeah, interesting times in the 21st century, right? There's so many mediums of communication, and it's good for the game. Only can ever be good. More exposure, the more people are interested in what we're producing. It still comes down to what we do on the pitch. But I think, it's certainly a changed time from when you'd go to a game and have peanuts and videotapes being thrown at you while you're trying to watch a football match.
Look, I asked Lawrie a little while ago that when did you guys leave my favourite part of Sydney, which was Wentworth Park? And he said to me, a while back. So is it Belmore now? Is Belmore home ground?
Yeah, Belmore's definitely the home ground. There's been a few iterations in between, but we've cemented that position. We've been there established for 19 years, and we have a long-term home that is Belmore. I know that there's a lot of stuff and chat around, the nomadic nature of Sydney Olympic, and it's partly true, but I think moving forward, that's our home ground, and we're here to stay for a long time.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that, because I'm old enough to remember Pratton Park. I'm old enough to remember Leichhardt. I'm old enough to remember my first home game was against Apia at Wentworth Park, and the sports ground and all those areas which now no longer exist. So Sydney's a very different landscape in terms of sport. But the most exciting thing is one of the great brands, one of the great iconic pieces of Sydney's football history is alive, and it's regathering itself for a run at, as we touched on, this National Second Division. When did you guys make up your minds and say, no, we can't afford to be outside, we've got to be inside?
Look, I joined the board early doors 2016, and I probably drifted away a little bit. So as a young man through the NSL days, just like what you were talking about, and it was a religion, and I understood football, and that's how I fell in love with the game. I think joining the board early, I could see the potential, and not that I want to say a wrongdoing, but certainly hard done by NSL clubs for many reasons. It was a bit of pill to swallow, and I think they certainly bring and brought a lot to the game that is Australian football, right? So I think once this sort of concept was sort of spoken about, we took, in fact, the first ever meeting within our own boardroom at Belmore about the concept of this B-League, and we followed it ever through, and I've been an advocate for it. I think it has enormous potential. I really do. I think that, Australia has more than enough potential to be able to fill two leagues and give a serious pathway and put a bit of pressure on the A-League too, because, I know football's a game and it's a sport, but it's also a business, and, to put a bit of pressure on the top flight of any sport code makes them have to invest, and investment brings on higher quality, and that's what people want to see and watch. So
Now, look, I just listening to you speaking, Pokuah Frimpong, who's my co-host, is a young woman building a new career for herself in the game. She marvels each and every week when we do this program, State of Our Football Nation, because she gets to learn about some of the, not only the characters, but some of the great old clubs that have existed and have carried the game. And Sydney Olympic, South Melbourne, Apia, the Melbourne Knights. These are clubs that should never have left the top leagues, and for one reason or another, they did. And can I just say, I've been in the media business for 45 years, and I can see that what they meant, it's a bit like, and I'm going to use this in a slightly different way. There's been so much talk about the stolen generation, right?
Yep.
Always when a narrative is put out there, it's not black and white. Yeah? It's not as clearly cut as people imagine. There were a great many people in those days that were taking children to help them survive, to help them to improve them. And of course, there were others who did the wrong thing. But the initial concept was for something else. Here we went a long time ago in the attempt to cleanse the game of some strains that had taken hold of it and wouldn't let go. And what we lost was the most important thing that you have in sport, and that is flavour, and that is heritage. And Lawrie tells us about the times he played at Box Hill. Well, he can remember those times so richly because they were wonderful memories and wonderful times. People, you had friendships you developed, and they last forever. Now what we've got to do is give the second division a chance to bring all these clubs back in, and we've got holistically and organically allow the game to heal itself, because there's been way too much toxicity, there's been way too much hate, and it comes from being outside. No one wants to be outside. We all want to be inside. Remember your first time in the playground, school?
Yep.
You wanted to be on the inner.
Yep.
And you had to earn your stripes to get in there.
Yeah. And I agree with what the analogy you put forward there. I mean, football is a game, full stop. It doesn't matter whom you follow. It doesn't matter what your beliefs are. The problem is that I think people become caught up in an idealism, or worse still, it becomes an egotistical thing, and decisions are made based on selfish intention. You scratch it all back. Football and Sydney Olympic, Marconi, the Sydney United, South Melbourne, these teams were built on a foundation where you had crowds that were packing small stadiums, but what it had was spirit. It had excitement. You know, it steered away from a fabricated model, and I think we allowed ourselves to be eaten and eroded by other codes in Australia. It's a unique, it's a unique sporting environment in Australia. But it's funny that you say about media. You know, Instagram's full of stadiums of Italian crowds at 80,000 people singing before, during, and after a game. It's not just about going and watching a football match, is it? It's an actual outing. It's an adventure.
It's an experience.
It's an experience. You know,
that's what you sell as an advertiser. That's what you sell.
You sell that.
As a business. That's what you sell.
Correct.
You're in the business of putting the best cranes to do the best work, and it's fit for purpose. Everything you do is fit for purpose, is it not?
It's absolutely fit for purpose. You're selling a gladiatorial spectacle
contest
using the football, right?
Yep.
And I think football at that point in time lost its way. You're right. There was an ethnic tinge that sort of people took upon themselves to use as the tool to batter it. But really, honestly, that was also the catalyst for the game being such a success. I'm tired of hearing people bagging it, because I was alive. I experienced it. My father dragged my ass to most games, you know, kicking and screaming at times. But you know what? I remember so many things that formed me, and, you know, I have fond memories of that. Not that I hate the A-League, but I struggle to find fellowship in it, because quite often, at times, it's there representing the wrong reasons, which is the game of football. I hear you. Look, 6 years ago, FNR rose out of nothing. One, because we had the access to the technology, and it was brand spanking new, but also the business model was such that we had a bunch of people who absolutely loved the game and were sick and tired of mainstream media not giving it the space and the energy that it deserved. And Lawrie can remember, they struggled for space. In the great days, in the heyday of the NSL, there were outrageous characters playing the game. We had to bury a guy
called Kokinos last year in the end of the COVID period there. And he was one of the great characters of football for South Melbourne in the grand days. And people like that were at every club, whether it was the Knights, whether it was, Marconi. Look, I can remember the day that Tony, I'm just trying to think of his surname at the moment. I've gone blank. But he was president of Marconi at the time.
Tony
Labazetta, bravo. Tony Labazetta says to me, listen, I need you to come. I was hosting the national news on SBS, doing the world news in those days. And he said to me, I want you to come down and host this function. We've got this terrific young talent. His name is Eddie Krenchevich and his lovely wife, Maggie, and they're going to come and coach and be part of the new tenure at Marconi. And they made it. We had a huge night. And I can remember the colour, the sponsorship, and the stories that came through that season. And they're the stories that can come again in this new fashion, in this new age, if only we and organisations like FNR have the opportunity to tell the stories. And that's why we've got Pokuah, the next generation of broadcaster, learning her business at this time and understanding and listening to the passion that people like Lawrie and people like Damon. Damon, where was your first experience of football? Did you play it, or was it when Dad dragged you as a youngster to the ground?
No, I played it. I played it from a young man of 5 years of age. Berkeley Vale on the Central Coast was my first little team. Yeah, What position? I was a defender. I was built for built for robust tackles, trying to take down Scottish strikers, similar to my friend Lawrie there. I would have got him at 5 years of age too, just quietly.
Lawrie, you can't let him get away with that.
I think he's the boss. I have to do the right thing just now, but I'll nail him. I'll nail him on the phone after this.
Yeah, I'll be sorry for this.
No. So, okay, let's get back to the serious business. You guys have put your hand up, along with South Melbourne, along with Marconi and Apia and some of the great clubs right around Australia. Every state has put, even WA, which we weren't quite sure was still part of Australia after the COVID experiment, has got one team that's put its hand up and wants to be part of the new national second division. What have you made of that? What's your feeling? When did you get serious and say, no, this is it. We want to get on board?
I can tell you from the first concept, I was bought into this. I was sold on the concept. I knew it would be hard yards, but I genuinely believed that this had momentum and legs, and the people that were involved, early days before Lawrie, even Rabi, Rabi was.
Rabi's been one of the greats. Yeah, consistent, like a bulldog, would not let go. And Nick Galatas is doing the same sort of thing.
He has, and Rabi's. He's been instrumental in Queensland to pull together the
Gold Coast bid.
Yep. And I'd speak to him sometimes about that. I always am a believer in some things. One, you got to believe in it, and believe and build it, and then they will come. And so we've been serious from this from the day one.
Fantastic stuff. When you touched on that phrase, build it and they will come, we're seeing living proof. The West Australian government saw fit to build a marvellous modern stadium. They call it the Optus Stadium on the Swan River there. And we have seen everything from cricket. It is a new gladiatorial stadium. And whatever you want to run there works. And we've heard today that not only will West Ham, which has had a really tough season in the EPL, be coming down, but Tottenham Hotspur, which has also been having a season like a yo-yo season, which fills Pokuah, by the way, with great joy. She's an Arsenal girl. Look,
small
Arsenal
club.
girl,
Small
the smile
club,
goes from ear.
Small club.
Look at her. Pokuah's smile goes from ear to ear. She's buoyant whenever I have to say, Tottenham are having a yo-yo season. But they're also going to be playing Perth Glory. So we've got two very important games. We've got three tremendous teams. Perth Glory have got some energy now. Their sails are wet and they're coming home. They've been playing some really good football. They're really hard to beat over there. And, of course, you've got two clubs that have got great fan bases around the globe and they want to make an impact. So the stadium has been built and people are coming. What you're saying is validation again. Let's build this national second division and people using the new technology will also embrace it. Is that what I can say without any doubt? You agree with?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think the sentiment that I would like to see, and I genuinely would like to see, is people, the supporters of the game of any level, to believe in the game. Let it flourish. Don't find a reason to hate. If you have just the love of the game, trust in it and let it grow, find your following and it'll flourish, right? Everybody always looks for the negative approach. The social media, unfortunately, gives you a platform to be as negative as you like without retribution. And I'm not a big fan of that. I think, comments are made that don't necessarily align with the true facts of what is happening in the game, right?
Yeah, but we're going to have to use the social media to whip up some new energy and tell a different story. And I think if we are instructive in that way, and we are strong about that, and we do it collectively, there's a fantastic opportunity to, as you say, put some air in the sails and see something grow. Totally.
Treat it with positivity. It will grow from that. If you starve a plant of sun, you starve a plant from oxygen, of course it's going to die. Let the plant grow, and then it'll fruit.
Damon, there's a young woman, as I just said, who was wearing a huge smile. Even she remembers a time, because she's read about it, when a guy called Arsene Wenger was ridiculed when he was appointed at Arsenal. They ridiculed him. And Lawrie will validate this too. Yeah. There were players in that club said, who is this buffhead? And what he's asking is all wrong. He may well be good for France. He may well be good for Japan, but he knows nothing about football. And, of course, what did he do? He created the Invincibles and he started a whole new era at the Arsenal Football Club that sees them today, 20-plus years later, buoyant and at the top of the EPL. Is that right, Lawrie?
No, definitely. I can remember when he came in and he got no support. The media jumped on the back of him. The fans jumped on the back. And it was only a matter of time till he turned around, because it takes time. You can't, as Damon was saying, you can't reinvent the wheel, like a new competition. It's not just a new competition. It's everything that goes in behind it to make that happen. And in Australia, and again, I was fortunate enough to go to the World Cup, but Arnie was getting smashed. Before the qualifiers, he was going to get sacked, and he had a belief. He had a belief in his players, and he had a belief in the A-League players. And look what happened. He got Coach of the Year. We got to the last 16. It was brilliant, but nobody saw that coming. Then everybody jumps on the bandwagon and want to take all the kudos. And what Damon's saying, spot on. Social media, everybody will look for the negatives. And our problem, I believe, like we've got the other sports that want to lock us out.
Oh yeah.
But our own worst enemies are self.
Yeah.
It's the self. It's our own people that want to chuck in the hand grenades, and they want to do it. We need to all get behind the game. Football supporters, lovers like you, people who have been in the game. We need to get them back in the game, make them come and enjoy. It's not just you come to the game, that's social, meet your mates, but come and enjoy the spectacle. Oh yeah, the football's rubbish. How many times have you heard that? I've been overseas to a lot of games, and I went to a lot of shit games, I can assure you. usually when Celtic beat Rangers, but that's beside the point.
Lawrie,
but you know what I mean?
Just hang on a second. I want you to tell Pokuah. You've seen a ton of different games, right? You've seen a ton of different games. You were in Qatar, and you were very aware of all the vitriol that Arnie and the boys got up until those games. Yeah. What was the feeling in the last minutes of the game against Argentina when the ball comes down and Garang Kuol hits the ball as he should have, but the goalkeeper at the other end did something very few keepers do, and that is he anticipated the right way.
Yeah.
What was the feeling at that moment in your heart? In your heart,
I was right behind the goals. I was just right there, and the feeling even just before that is we're going to go to extra time with Argentina. We're going to get a goal here. We felt there had been, I don't know, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 Aussies there. We felt we were going to get a goal against a team like that, against Messi, against, you had 46,000 or 44,000 in the ground, and I think 39,000 were Argentina supporters. You know, it was hostile. It got a wee bit hostile, to be fair, but we believed we could get something. It was the same. You should have saw the mood when we found out France had put half their team out against, I think, Tunisia when we're playing Denmark. And even if we'd won, we could have went out. But you should have felt the mood and the passion. You know, I've not saw that for years. Me and Christine, and we are proudly Scottish born, but we're proud Australians. She was in tears. I've never saw Christine cry at a game of football in my life, apart from when I probably missed a sitter and that was my new contract gone. But that was the first time I've ever, she was jumping and hugging, and the pictures were all over Facebook. She was in tears, and we have never saw passion like that in football since I came here. That was amazing. And that's what you can replicate with the Socceroos, the A-League and the B-League. You know, it's there. It's up to us. It's up to the football fans. And I'm a fan, you're a fan, Damon's a fan. Yeah. We're all fans.
A fan.
We have to make it work. We can't blame. We can sit back and blame everybody else, but we have to go for ours and make something happen.
Yeah,
And for Sydney Olympic, if it wasn't for Damon, there might have not been a Sydney Olympic today. So Damon can hold his head up high because he has got off his arse and he has done something, and he's been the main driver for us to go for the B-League.
And that tells me an awful lot. That tells me an awful lot. When you've got people of that substance who have that commitment, that focus and that desire to put their hard-earned back into the sport, it means that they're serious. And that's the most exciting thing. And I also want to add a line here for Damon. You talk about the vitriol and the social media. Remember before Qatar, before the World Cup, all we were hearing is one very negative series of commentary about the work conditions and other things at Qatar leading up to the World Cup. And I accept there were things there that weren't right and needed to be addressed and should be addressed. But Lawrie, oh, well done, boys.
Labbie's just shouting today. Have you got a message for Damon? Here's Labbie coming. One of the characters.
Here we go. Here we go. Oh my God.
That was really good.
This could be anything.
I'm just ready for work. That's all I can say. I'm ready for work.
Get it. And it's thunder and lightning. We've got thunder and lightning here. That wasn't
tell him to hold up a one iron, because everyone knows that not even God can hit a one iron.
I told them, mate, we're in it together. So if we go down all together.
Hey, but I'm not going to stand I'm not standing next to Labbie because he's got a big nose and he's likely to get hot with the lightning.
First one to get hit.
He's the first one to get hot.
I'll take one for the team. I'm used to it anyway.
Good boy. Let's get back in that storyline we were talking about. Everyone knew before Qatar that it was on the nose.
Yeah.
But as you touched on, your wife was in one of those moods you've never seen. And that only happened because she was allowed to be at a World Cup that went off seamlessly. And what we also saw was the emergence of the African nations and Asia. That must have been very exciting for you. And that gives us more scope to talk about this national second division. There's energy there. We've just got to give it a chance to light. You have like a fire. You got to start the fire.
You spoke on the living conditions and stuff like that. Yeah. I heard all about it, and to be fair, at the beginning, me and my wife went, "Will we go?" And we went. I never saw anything. I never saw any of that. But what I did see was a lot of Uber drivers, a lot of the bus drivers that we were dealing with, because I was one of the tour ambassadors with the Green and Gold Army. They had lived in Doha for 8 years, 7 years, 6 years. And they were working there because they were sending money back to the families so they could survive, because where the countries they came from, the economy was far worse than that. So to me, I was going, these people are getting work here. They're getting money they're sending it. They go back once a year to see their family, and they're feeding their mums and dads and grandparents. So I looked at that and went, this place in the World Cup itself was exceptional. And you hit it in the head. It got given a chance. Everybody was doubting it, and it came through with flying colours. The way they handled the games, the transport, everything. And the football, because teams had a go as well. And I think Damon touched on that earlier. Teams had a go. I tend to think sometimes in the APL now, teams are scared to get beat. And they're worried about getting beat instead of worrying about winning.
And you know full well, in life, in business, what are you going to do, Damon? If you want to win in business, what do? You commit yourself, do you not?
You take all the risks that you need within reason, and you commit yourself and you see it through. You don't ever stop halfway. Once you've committed a pathway, see it through.
So that's the messaging that we have really now got to grasp and spread through the National Second Division clubs and to Nicola Tuss and the others. Listen, can I just take this opportunity to, one, thank you at short notice for jumping on board and saying, yes, we can do it. Thank you very much for giving us access to the wild man, the man I know as the ringmaster. He is one of the most wonderful ingredients the game has. I'm blessed that we have him at Sydney Olympic. I'm very excited to see what you guys can do. And if the weather plays a role, it helps us and allows us to play games. How does the opening few weeks of the NPL competition going in New South Wales?
It started tremendous. We won the first three, but I'll leave the next four to Damon.
Damon, what's happened?
We've thrown a bearing on the wagon, George, and we're going a little bit backwards. But you know what? That's football, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And I think the boys, regardless of the results, the boys are well and truly in the mix. It's just been it's a game of chances. We didn't take them; the others took them. And this weekend we're going to bounce back with a vengeance.
Yep.
So we're ready.
No, definitely.
We give
who do you play on the weekend?
We play Spirit FC, which are one of the new teams up into the NPL. The old Gladesville Spirit. So they've been doing quite well. And we're sitting mid-table. But as Damon said, we played Blacktown, the champions, last week, cruising at 20 minutes, cruising. And then we made a mistake and got punished for it. And that's what happens, And there's some good players in this league that when you see some of the players going about that should have a chance to go to the A-League, but there are not enough spots for them, and that's where the B-League's going to come in, and a lot more of these young players coming through will get the opportunity to show the A-League clubs what they can do at a good standard. So I think it's great for development of players as well.
Now, the other thing we've got to tell people is that it's not only the opportunity they get, it's the actual games that they get in their legs and the decision-making. As players, you don't learn what it's like to have to take a penalty at a critical juncture in the game, or when the ball comes to you, you don't have the courage of your convictions and hit the ball right where it needs to be hit. If you don't do enough of these games and have them in your repertoire, you remember the early games, how nervous were you until you settled down? Yeah. You were terrified.
And we are fortunate enough to have Roy Donovan club, and his experience and a few other A-League players is invaluable to the players. It's at training, they're constantly talking to players and that's giving confidence out, because that's when you lose a couple of games, confidence goes out the window, as we all know. And at the weekend, I don't really give two hoots if there's no ticky-taka, and we just batter a result out, because that's what's been happening to us. So, but this is when you need your experienced players, and these experienced players get that knowledge for playing games. And you could be a child superstar, but if you're not playing games, you're not getting better. You have to play games, and that's why 14 to 16 teams for me is perfect for the B League, because you're going to have. We're not wanting to have a B League and play in 16 games or 20 games.
No.
Then you can't play anywhere. So you're going to play for 4 months of the season, the year, and then so at the moment the A League pre-season is the longest pre-season in the world. Then the foreign players come out and they go, "Wow, what is this? This is like a slogfest to get to the first game." So it's important we get enough games.
Lawrie McKinna, can I just take again the opportunity to thank you for joining us on FNR? and for giving Pokuah such an insight into some of your early games and some of the stories from days gone past. And for Damon, once again, thank you very much. Hold on to this guy. Keep a tight leash on him because he gets excitable, and his wife is just the most wonderful person on the planet. She's had to put up with him all her life.
42 years. 42 years. Can you believe
happy
it?
Anniversary. Happy anniversary, Lawrie.
I'm not old enough to be married 42 years, but she's looking after me well.
Bless her. Listen, you playing at home or away on the weekend?
At home on Saturday night, 6:30 kickoff.
Come on,
so
down.
6:30, Belmore, the place to be. Saturday night against the Spirit. Damon, thank you very, very much. We will do this throughout the season. Thank you very much, and all the very, very best for your plans for the National Second Division. Let's keep pumping the story up and making sure that we get the result we want coming a little bit further down the season, because we're now hearing that Football Australia is getting closer and closer to its assessment and making a decision as to which way it will go. Bravo. Thank you again, guys.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Pokuah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Stay dry.
Yeah.
There you go, Pokuah. You've learned a lot about Sydney Olympic now. You understand some of the key players as Damon and Lawrie now, their history, a bit more about their background and their commitment. And you understand also that there's a great story to be told. We've got to let it play out. That's the thing. And let's hope that Football Australia understands what's on board, and also what the APL, the Australian Professional Leagues, have got to do. They've got to make sure that their A-League is as strong and as viable as possible. And at the same time, we've got to make sure that the Football Australia that runs the Matildas, runs the Socceroos, and all our national teams, in whatever guise they come, they make key decisions that will allow the game to heal itself and come together. And I think you and I have discussed this before. The game has got to come together. You heard Damon talking about the hate, the vitriol. That comes from being greatly frustrated and deeply offended being left out. How old were you when you arrived in Australia?
I was a few days from turning 5.
Okay. You remember those early days trying to fit in and how hard it was? It must have been an enormous challenge for a youngster finding her way in a brand new country.
Yeah, it was. For migrants, it's always very difficult trying to learn a new culture and also, keeping your roots as well. So it wasn't easy, but I've lived in Australia for a really long time, and it's part of my identity as well.
It is part of your identity, and you're very proud of it. And you should be. Bless you. Okay, so we've got the Socceroos playing Ecuador. We've got some big decisions coming up at 6:00 tonight, I believe. Some announcements to be made. So the game, a lot of things are happening. And as we've heard, there are some international teams that are coming down under to once again take advantage of the weather, the facilities, and the competition and showcase their wares for their international fans. I can put it to you that by having the game in Perth with West Ham and Tottenham, there'll be a lot of fans from Asia and Africa flying across and using that option as a key plank to enjoy some special entertainment, don't you think?
Absolutely. And, Optus Stadium, I think, is one of the best stadiums we've got in the country. So, it'll be a great spectacle every time they have a game there. It always looks amazing on television.
I was just going to say, the only thing I want is the pitch not to have had a major rock concert on it before the games are played. Remember last time? Yeah. Steve Gerrard said, what is this?
Yeah, no concerts, concerts before the game.
And even the great MCG, Ed Sheeran, magnificent concert, 110, 115,000 people. But at the end of the day, if you're going to have an event like that, the last thing you can do, or the thing that you shouldn't do if you're a manager of those sporting venues, do no harm. It's what doctors are reminded constantly. Do no harm, and make sure that when the next match is scheduled or the next activity is scheduled, it can actually go ahead without having to wonder, why are we being treated as second-class citizens? All right. Thank you very much for your support. Until next week.
Thank you very much,
When I
George.
see you in the flesh.
Yeah, you'll be back.
Right, we're almost done.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Pokuah.
Thank you, George. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And we'll be back next week for some more State of Our Football Nation on FNR.
Sponsored by the Northern Motor Group. Thank you.
You're listening to the State of Our Football Nation on FNR.